Hey everybody, what is happening? Back here again with another episode. Checking in with some great art advice and talks, lectures, and other info you can find on this channel. Back in with a new interview with an amazing artist. One guy that I've been trying to get on here for a while now, but Jesus, yeah, just schedules, time differences, and a whole hell of a lot of other things have got in the way. But he is finally here, so please welcome to the podcast, Ryoma Tazi. If I got that right, hopefully I did.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yay!
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, way. Yeah, so like I was saying, time differences are kind of a bitch, but where are you located at the moment? Are you somewhere in Asia by any chance? Because EST's is it in that area? Or towards maybe even like Spain, Barcelona, or
I'm actually in the New York time zone, so currently I'm in Atlanta. But
shit.
that's going to be for a very short while. I'm actually moving to San Francisco by the end of the week.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what EST. I assumed it was something like Eastern time, and I assumed it was, but it'll be Eastern on the American coast. Obviously, I was thinking it was Eastern over this side of the world, this side of the globe.
Right.
So, yeah, just getting used to time zones myself because I'm also moving at the moment. I'm a couple of weeks out from moving to Shibuya in Tokyo. So
Yeah, congrats to that, man. That's a pretty
yeah.
crazy, life-changing event.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to say the least. I don't know what to expect from the next 12 months, but fuck it, it's an adventure, right? Like this is the whole thing with as artists is that you just have to upheave your life sometimes and just go and try shit. So
That's
so
right.
yeah. And is are you heading to San Fran for a gig for a job?
Yeah, I'll be over there. I actually got offered a position to be an art director of at Monami Park. One of the games they've worked on is a Slime Rancher. And yeah, I'll be a part of the team, and I'm pretty excited to see what kind of experiences it'll bring me.
Oh, sweet man. Yeah, I mean, you've had such a varied career. Like, I mean, even straight out of school, you were at Riot, either freelance or you were in the studio, or
Yep.
yeah, which is crazy. I think for someone so young, right? Because it's well for me, a lot of the guys I know who went to Blizzard or Riot, or they've bought about a couple other studios first and then landed in Riot or Blizzard. I think the last person I know who went quite young was Becca Rose Halstead. Like she basically went straight out of Chicago art school into Blizzard as someone on the WoW texture team. But yeah, it is kind of quite incredible if you can land that as almost your first gig. How did that come about out of school? Was that through just networking, or was that you kind of having a back and forth with the studio, or?
Yeah, I mean that was I think the right place at the right time. So that was during my master's program. I was over at this program called FIA, which is Florida Interactive Entertainment Academy, and essentially it's a program where it focuses on creating, focusing on the production side of game development. And I was on the art track. And during that year, one of the years there, it's a 2-year program. I actually went to GDC, and there was a huge Riot booth, and I met with the team there that was kind of out there scouting, and I hit it off really well with the people there, and they offered me a position after a couple of back and forth in emails. So yeah, I was
Oh,
very fortunate to kind of be in the right place at the right time, and also working on the right content because at that time, I kind of did some fan art. Well, there was a competition for the Lunal Revelry, and I think they do this still yearly, once a year.
right, okay.
And yeah, they already knew my work from kind of like getting like an honorable mention. And then after I was sending emails, like, hey, here's a skin idea. And I think I can talk about this because it's already out and everything. But it was like kind of like an arcade Hikarim, like he was a robot unicorn was kind of a thing that people were playing, and I thought,
Okay.
hey, Hikarim is my favorite jungler. Mix that with the robot unicorn and see how they responded, and they were like, hey, this is crazy because we're actually working on this currently. So they're like, hey,
Wow.
would you like an art test? And I was like, yeah, of course, yes, please.
Let me think about that one for a while. Please, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think it's just a thing where these big studios always seem like the things that are out of reach for people. Like I remember when I said to someone not too long ago that I would love to work for Blizzard. It's still my dream. and he basically flat out said like, "You'll never work for Blizzard. It's never going to happen." And I was kind of like, well, that might be true in your eyes, but like, I would like to still believe that one day I could do it. And yeah, I think it's just good to have the attitude that you can do it, and these companies aren't like untouchable, and it's somewhere you'll never work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then was that for a shorter time, or were you there for a while, and then you moved on to something else, or?
Oh well, I was doing contracting stuff for them for like I would say about 2.5 to 3 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I was working on skins. I was I had the honor to work on the World Cup was happening during the time, and I
Okay.
actually was part of that event. So yeah, there's just like a lot of skins here and there. So it was cool.
Wow. Yeah, nice. So, and you were talking about the master's program. It actually seems something that a lot of people are doing now, where know that your degree isn't enough, but like sometimes the masters is a good way to just more focus your field of vision into what you want to do. Was that the case for you when you approached the masters? Was it something you were using to refine your palette you already developed?
Yeah, well, I've always so before that I went to a bachelor's program to just do art. I didn't really know exactly what it was. So I learned that I wanted to do concept art and illustrations during that bachelor's. And then I entered this program wanting to learn more of that craft.
Mm-hmm.
But this program, it wasn't actually very focused. The Even though it had an art track, it was like, hey, this is modeling, this is rigging, this is animation. Here's the whole art pipeline of what goes into a game development. So even though I didn't really learn the specifics of concepting and illustration, I learned a lot of the other parts of the production pipeline was actually pretty beneficial because then I would know the constraints of just a production in general, and that helped
Yeah.
me become a better concept artist.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of these things where there's a whole conversation about being like a purist when it comes to art in general, and do you involve photo bash and do you involve 3D? And I think a lot of these things, they are just tools in a belt that help you expand your arsenal, that make you more attractive to studios, that open doors that you previously thought weren't, or try tools that you thought you never really maybe like, but then you end up loving them. So and I take it that as a thing where you feel like that helped you once you got in the door. Like you knew what animation was looking for. You knew what the in-game engine stuff would be like. Was that the case? Was that what the masters kind of taught you?
Yeah, I mean, like if it had everything gone my way, I would have probably just gone and learned concept art even further. But
Yeah.
because I went to this program and it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of different avenues, I realized that I just didn't want to just design things. I wanted
Okay.
to kind of understand the whole production pipeline. And I guess that's why, I'm doing art direction right now, because I realize I love all the parts of production for art.
Wow.
And that's, that was like the start of me developing that skill set.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And then so for me, and then I suppose this is just my naivety because I'm so new to the industry, but um, with you being at Riot, where did the decision come to then leave that and then move on to Frostburn? Was that an opportunity that had just kind of landed on your lap through an email or a conversation, or did you want to leave Riot because felt like you weren't growing, or you want to do something different?
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of talk about the real reality of the situation, because at the time, Riot was my dream job. Like before I got the opportunity, and I was like, when this thing came and kind of presented itself, I was very lucky. I was very fortunate, and also after a while, I felt like the magic disappeared,
Okay.
and I don't know, then I realized that this is a game that I like to play. And this was also the first gig, because I was looking for validation for my skills, right? Like I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm good enough. And I kind of got this opportunity. It's like, okay, you're able to become a professional. You're working on a game that you enjoyed, but is this really what you want to do? And that was a huge kind of question, because to be honest with you, working for some of the last couple of contracts for Riot, I was actually starting to hit some sort of tedium. Um,
Mm,
I was, I was kind of like, I already learned the process and I've done this before, and it was like, here's the next assignment, and it wasn't fulfilling at that point. and even my work started to suffer. Like I was taking longer because it wasn't making me energized.
Yeah.
So my switch to kind of Frostburn and like working with them, they kind of provided me a new opportunity. It's like, hey, we have a new IP, we have a new project that we want to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and we're kind of looking for visual development for it. And for me, I was like, okay, instead of just working on like a character, I could work on a world. And I think that was ultimately the reason why I made that decision to go forward.
Right. Okay. And I mean that's got to be brave in itself. Where you know you probably could have stayed at Riot and done work for them. Longer than what you were at, obviously, and got more gigs and maybe moved in and changed. But yeah, you just wanted to take that leap again, straight into the unknown and offer your services to another company. Because yeah, for me, like there was a whole thing. Jamaro Kindred, right? The
Mm-hmm.
guy, yeah. So like Jamaro, obviously was very famous because he made the whole website I want to work for Blizzard.com, and
Yeah.
that whole story of getting in, and that was his dream gig. And then he recently, maybe even last year, I can't remember, or the year before, but he left the Hearthstone team to basically work on an IP now in a new company that him and a couple of guys set up. It almost blew, I think, a lot of people's minds when he was announcing he was like
Yeah.
leaving. We were like, holy shit, like what is happening? Because yeah, like that was his dream gig, that was his forever job. So yeah, like I mean, commendations to you. Like it must have been difficult, even though you felt it was the right move. It still must have been painful to say to the guys, "I want to leave." Was that the case? Was that kind of
I mean, like, so the opportunity kind of working with Riot, like it kind of it was kind of scary because like obviously like they were doing really well. Like everyone knew about League of Legends, and I was like, if I stop working for contracting with them, then ultimately I could be losing this big name, by
mm,
my resume.
yeah,
But honestly, like even though there was worry there, I think there was more excitement of like, oh man, what kind of world am I going to build for the next project that Frostburn was offering to me. So even though there were concerns, I think the excitement moving forward was much larger, so it helped.
okay, yeah, okay, that's cool, man. That's cool. So yeah, so you're in Frostburn, you're doing your gig there. Things are kind of moving about. Um, so again, from that, was Hasbro the next step as well, or was that something again that was just added on top, or another opportunity? Because the timelines kind of seem to mix at that point as well, where you're doing kind of a lot of things at once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually that was a time when I moved over to California. I went to South LA,
Okay.
and I was, I was kind of following the dream of like, okay, I think maybe I want to work at Blizzard because Blizzard's a big name, and I think that's like a lot of like concept artists or even artists in the industry's like kind of dream job.
Right. Okay.
So I went over there, and yeah, I was like, I had barely any money, so I had to like juggle like tons of jobs. So at one point, I was juggling like 7 projects. So this was
Mm.
between Frostburn, Hasbro, and like indie company games, or even like just even things outside of games. And that was it was a very stressful time, but I appreciate it because I felt like, I don't know if you watched Dragon Ball Z, but I felt like I was in a hyperbolic time chamber, kind of training up. So it was a crazy situation.
Yeah, I can imagine you were Gokuing that shit up. Yeah, man, I think it's one of these things, especially when you're trying to stay relevant or stay in a position where you think this gig will get you more work and this gig will open this opportunity. So you don't want to say no to anything, right? You want to just keep taking on work and try to
Yeah,
balance everything, and
yeah,
which is it's like a double edged sword because obviously on one side you're getting all these opportunities, you're getting your name out there, you're doing work for different games, but at the same time you don't want to burn out, you don't want to make yourself feel shitty or like again your work is suffering because you're not getting enough sleep, you're not eating enough, you're
yeah,
not getting
yeah.
outside. So yeah.
I mean, but ultimately, like I know, I want to bring the reality of the situation, not to kind of damper the mood, because I want to have a positive outcome for anyone that's listening to this.
Yeah.
But that was a really tough time in my life because I kind of gave up Riot. I gave up the big name. I also was trying to go for another big name that honestly I don't really like Blizzard games that much, but because everyone was talking about, look at the stuff that they do, and like, every good artist should go there. I kind of followed that, blindly followed that messaging. And that was also a time where I was kind of going through a lot of stuff, like personally with my family, there was, like negative disconnection. And there was a moment where I was kind of lost as a person, and
Yeah.
emotionally distraught. Career wise, I felt like I wasn't moving anywhere. And I was also I was by myself with, my girlfriend in California. And
Yeah.
it was, all the stresses was kind of just creeping at me. And for me, it was like I was chasing the job at Blizzard or a studio just to validate myself, instead of really understanding what I wanted to do for myself. What really brought fulfillment for me. And that was a
Yeah.
tough time. And yeah, like I because of that, I went through a lot of difficult situations where I didn't need to, because I was looking for that validation. So
Yeah. I think if you look for validation in external things, it always can lead to a point where you can almost never be validated, because you'll chase the next thing. Because you could have gotten into Blizzard and then be like, oh well, now I need to do movies, now I need to work on like Star Wars, so that's the
yeah,
next thing, and then you'll chase that, and then you'll get that and be like, oh well, I need to go work for fucking NASA now and design rocket ships. Like, there's always like the goal is
yeah,
constantly moving. And I think it was again, I love to use this quote, but Eleanor Roosevelt was kind of saying that happiness is a byproduct of a life well lived. So if you find that you're chasing something constantly, and you're not focusing on the present or what you have at the moment, then yeah, you'll almost never really be satisfied completely. So
yeah.
you
Because
just have to yeah,
because ultimately it was just like a void I was trying to fill.
yeah,
And I think that you're right. Like, it's, you have to be happy with yourself, and then more happiness can come out of that once you feel complete. You can maneuver throughout the world and find things that you can add to your life that bring fulfillment.
yeah,
So
man. I mean, it's one of the things I think, even though people have this fear of even not applying for things because they're scared of the reality. Like, I know one guy I met, this is years ago, right enough, but his stuff was good enough to work at Blizzard, and I was always saying to him, because he was like, he wanted to work for Blizzard. It was like one of his dreams as well. And he was like, oh yeah, I would love to apply, but what if they hate my stuff, man? What if they don't like what I've got? And I'm like, dude, just apply. Like, what is the worst they can say? No. And he's like, I know, but if they say no, but then if they say yes, and I get there and it's not any good and I didn't enjoy it, what am I going to do then? And I'm like, oh my god, you couldn't overthink this anymore. So
yeah, that
yeah,
happens a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and
go,
yeah.
go,
On
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to say. So when you then kind of were hopping about these jobs and you were having this difficult time, was this a thing where you were almost trying to like emulate another artist's journey, or was it something that you felt like you wanted to go here because, or like, I mean, I'm trying to even think how you went from Frostburn to Hasbro as well. Was that, I'm trying to think of that. I wouldn't know specifically, but would that be toy design, or were you doing something for them internally
Yeah,
that was a
I was
product?
doing some toy design. I was doing some environment stuff for them.
Mhm.
I mean, ultimately, during that time, like, I was taking a lot of contracts, and even though like I was, doing, picking up all these jobs to survive, what it also gave me was kind of like more perspective on what was interesting to me, because I was experimenting as an artist, and luckily getting paid for that experimentation in my life.
Of course, yeah, yeah,
And ultimately, it kind of sharpened my, like, I guess, my sword or whatever, to know what exactly I wanted to do.
yeah, definitely. And then I think actually a lot of this would come out the fact that you've probably taken on such big opportunities at such an early point in your life. I mean, like, for a lot of people, like I said, with Riot, or big companies like that, that's typically something that would, for a lot of people, would come at the end, and well, not the
Yeah, yeah,
end, but like, maybe even midway through their career, after they've been with smaller studios or worked in, a couple of indie projects and then built up and, went to AAA. So yeah, it probably sounds like a lot of this tension or this validation was coming because you were thrust into this life so early, and you had to
yeah.
do a lot of these big jobs when you were still quite young. Because when you got your first job at Riot, how old were you then?
I was, oh man, like, I think I was like maybe 24, 25 or something around that
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Again, for that level, again, I feel as young. I mean, if you've got the talent, totally, it can match up. But then, even I think somebody who is prepared or has a breadth of artwork that is probably valid for that job, working in such a big company straight away is still a scary undertaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can totally see that as wouldn't have helped, whatever else was going on in your life.
Well, I mean,
So
like I think at that time I was definitely a lot more superficial, and when you look at it, it's like, okay, I'm done with Riot, so it has to be something bigger. It has to be something better, like.
yeah,
And then that's why naturally, like Blizzard was the next thing. It was like that's the bigger company because they've been around for longer, and they,
yeah,
and it wasn't even that I had any interest of their, their content. It was just I I was going for the next big thing.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
was the validation though? Was that for to try and pose a question that isn't too difficult for you to answer or be personal here? But then, did you ever try and figure out maybe eventually who you were trying to validate or where that
Yeah,
validation?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, like I was saying earlier, and I don't want to get in too much to it to kind
No,
of
no, no, no. Yeah.
out of respect for my family, but I can definitely give you a more perspective on it from my side of it. But
Yeah.
definitely from my upbringing, definitely from my uh, especially my parental my relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of due to a lot of kind of conflicts and trauma of the past of of my family history. There was always this feeling that I had to live up to these expectations.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And like just to kind of give you a little glimpse, my my father passed away early on when I was like 2,
Okay.
and my my mom like raised me and all that stuff like that, and I can tell that there was a lot of that weight, that emotional weight that she had behind. And also I was the son of this person that is no longer in her life, so
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was there was definitely that toll that I felt like I had to, I don't know, it's like, all right, here I have to prove myself.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, I think it's a very common thing, and I find that it's even more common when people then try to associate with making art a career. Because for me, I left a job 5 years ago now as an engineer to pursue art, and for me at the time, trying to explain to my parents, you know, I know it's going to be a risk, and I know you maybe don't know much about what I'm trying to do here, but believe me, like this can be a fruititious a job, a career,
Yeah.
please trust me, like I know what I'm doing. But then back then, it's hard to explain, like, oh, I want to draw pictures and people will pay me to do that. Like enough money that, I can have a house, I can have a life, I can,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's a very common tale for, not just for kids and different families or people who've experienced loss, but also just the art community in general. It's
Yeah.
it's it's almost just a thing when you try to tell people like, oh, no, I want to go be an artist and do art for the rest of my life, and people are like, okay, so you're going to be poor, you're not going to have a job, you're not going to have any work, but then they don't know anything about the entertainment industry. So, yeah, yeah,
And I think ultimately it's just like you have people around you that do care for you, and financial stability is something that is important in a lot of
yeah,
people's eyes.
of course,
But there's also the emotional stability. There's the fulfillment factor that will feed into your soul, essentially, and some of that can't be brought or bought by material possession. So
of course, yeah,
having that healthy relationship with all these different factors, like your relationship with others, your financial stability, your physical health, like all those things are ultimately what you want to kind of manage and tweak to really kind of optimize and find your, I guess, your true happiness, I guess, that's personal to you.
your equilibrium, your balance,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, because everyone's balance is different. Some people maybe need that financial boost that will allow them to create happiness into their life, right? It's not that
Yeah, of course.
it'll bring that opportunity, but for us, there's something about creating. There's something about doing, putting our mind to a blank canvas, and all of a sudden this thing comes out of nowhere, and it's like that I don't know, that rewarding feeling is just it's hard to explain.
I think it's just maybe even as you grow a bit older or you spend time in the industry, your perspective will shift eventually from one thing to another.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when I was in my job as an engineer, I don't know if this is related, or maybe just because I was younger, but being 28 at the time, even just 5 years ago, I was focused on very material aspects of life, like
yeah,
having a nice car or whatever. And then as it's went on, now, I'm watching videos even just before I move out to Tokyo about living as a minimalist and be able to pack your life into one suitcase because for years I kind of hoarded stuff. I mean, years and years ago, I used to collect video games and have cupboards and rooms full of it. But then, yeah, eventually I'm trying to just declutter my life and try to live as minimalist as possible. And same with money, like as long as I can earn, because it was like when I first was looking into the industry, way back when, you were hearing these stories with guys at Blizzard and Riot that were getting like these $120,000 a year contracts and all this money, but then you slowly, as you learn, as you become less ignorant, you learn that like in California, like it's so expensive to live.
yeah,
Those wages seem attractive at the time, but really that's just like an average wage for a lot of people because yeah, like housing is so expensive. So um, I always say to myself when it got to a point, even I think last year, I was saying, look, I'm not looking to be rich here. As long as I could sustain myself with
yeah,
enough money, then I'm
exactly.
quite happy. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's why I think it's like really important to like to know yourself, to really understand. And that was like a hard lesson in the past 2 years. And we may get into it, but like the, you know, here working in high res and kind of going through some experiences of self, like I really had to let go of the lies I was kind of like telling myself in
mm-hmm.
order to really understand what made me happy and ultimately find better opportunities because I was paying more attention to those important aspects of my life. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy. I think it's I definitely warn, or not warn, but I really want artists that are coming across this podcast to be a lot more mindful of who they are and what really is fulfilling for them. And
yeah.
I think when you focus on that, it's crazy. Like something opportunities come up where it supports that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if you're saying mindful, but I think mindfulness is something as well that breeds into that meditation, just understanding yourself better than, rather than looking outwards, look inwards.
Yeah.
So talking about high res, was that an opportunity that came at a time when you were more focused, or was that still on the path of still finding yourself, or?
Yeah, I definitely think it was still on the path of finding myself.
Okay.
My, I had an opportunity to work at high res. I worked pretty much all different parts of the company, from doing concepts for paladins to doing concepts for a new IP over there,
Okay.
working on cinematics. So again, it was just kind of like another place to where I can really explore a lot of different options and then find out myself better. But I definitely had probably one of the greater challenges in the last 2 years. Like, for example, being in a working environment where, all of a sudden, like I had so much stress and emotional distress that it was actually affecting my physical health. And I actually went to the emergency room because of
Wow.
it. And
Shit.
so it was cool to kind of just, this moment was, even though as tough as it was and as painful as it was, I felt like it was this evolution that just happened where I just finally realized myself because the fire was there and I could not ignore it. And
Yeah.
I finally just kind of just like, oh wait, this is not where I want to be. And ultimately I detached myself from that.
So was this the again? I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but the emergency room thing, was this just was this a burnout thing, or working too hard, or pushing yourself too much, or?
Yeah, yeah. So it's no secret that the game industry is can be extremely stressful. We see stuff like headlines from like BioWare with Anthem, and you see like how a lot of people suffered mental health
Which
just
is
going
wrong.
through.
Yeah, which is just wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, BioWare is not the only environment that has that. It's they're just the only one that's being covered right now because
Of
a
course. Yeah.
game that game was like outside of people's expectation. But
Yeah.
um, that culture was something that I was heavily under, and because of that, you're working. I remember there were moments I was working 3 months without a weekend, and it was 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
That's
And
ridiculous.
yeah, and it was scary because like all of a sudden like my physical health was taking a toll. And there was this moment where I was so stressed out and I was so sick that I felt like I had to detach from work. And then there was this fear of like, if I leave work, I will lose all my health benefits. And if I get sick more, what am I going to do? But ultimately, it was because of that environment that I was getting
Yeah.
sick. So I had to kind of just jump and just remove myself from the situation. And then finally, like after a while, reevaluate myself and see who I am and why do I want to do art, and then find opportunities that support that.
Wow. I mean, that's Jesus Christ, man. I just want to run over there and give you a hug. Um, I mean, like it's. I remember this is going back. Like my first proper industry event was Industry Workshops in London, 2016, and I met a guy there who I had idolized for the last year because I knew what he worked on. He was working on a particular game for a particular company, and like the stories he was telling me of why he went freelance were like horrific, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh my god, is this what I'm walking into? Is this what my life's going to be like? And I've heard people argue both sides of it, right? I've heard people say, look, these things are a business, people need to make money. um this is how studios are, but as long as you look after your own health, you'll be fine. And then obviously people who say, well, it's a fucking atrocity, people shouldn't be getting treated like this, they shouldn't be. Like, I mean, there's been so many the last couple of months, right? Like the Division guys, all the PR guys getting let go, Blizzard laying off, your Activision laying off the 800 people, the Telltale fiasco when people
Yeah.
I knew were getting laid off and escorted from the building and couldn't even get back in to fucking pick up their own stuff. Like, it, I can really understand why people go contracting freelance, because unless you find that company who really like will treat you like a fucking human being, like I think I've said this in our podcast before, is that the reason I wanted to go work for Blizzard wasn't even like the super awesome wage or the games. I mean, I love the games, but I was told from people I knew that there was enough respect in Blizzard that you were treated like a human being, like you were seen as not just as an asset but as a person, and you weren't, kept into like 12 o'clock at night, and you weren't working every weekend. Um, yeah, I mean, people bring their fucking dogs to work. I mean, straight away I was like, that's got to be a positive, right? Surely. So yeah, like finding that studio that will treat you with respect is hard, and I think it's harder when you're young as well, because you do just want to please everybody and you want to work hard because you want to be seen as a valuable team member.
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack there, but yeah, dive in it if you can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after quitting and removing myself to allow myself to be treated like that or be put in that environment, like I really focused on what did I want to do? What are my core values? And you could, a lot of my friends, like I I gotta thank them and I appreciate them for being there, because they were seeing this broken artist for a little while, and I had to definitely had a lot of conversations with everyone to kind of help me see and have a better perspective. But ultimately was just like, okay, well, what is fun for me to draw? Like, what is fun for me to paint? Let me just do that. Don't paint or do art because I need a job right now. Like, let me just focus on my health and just focus on what is really fun for me. And ultimately, right afterwards, which was like perfect timing, was the event in Malta, which THU.
Okay.
And I brought my art book there, and I wanted to showcase my work. And in my art book was no professional work; it was all personal work. And I wanted to just not seek validation, but I just wanted to present who I was and what I felt was a fun part of me. And it was inspiring because, showcasing, my work over there, everyone's like, oh, dude, this is cool. And they're like reminiscing of their childhood, or, oh, I love this. And that's when I like, it was just kind of like a breath of fresh air and a realization of like, this is why I want to do art. I want to connect with people. I want to connect with people and have a positive experience, not because I want to sell a loot box or sell like a costume or whatever like that. It's just, I want to I want to resonate with people, and I want to create an experience that hopefully gives a positive outcome, creates a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And
I mean, definitely, like, you're speaking my fucking language. Like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with Tokyo. Like, that is exactly why I want to go there and take almost a year away from art and rediscover my sketchbook and rediscover what I love. Because when I first left, like, my job, I was almost getting into comics, like, and I loved anime. I loved the Eastern style of drawing, and I thought, like, I used to sit and draw Goku stuff for DBZ, like Avatar Aang, all that kind of stuff, like, in my sketchbook. And then when I started doing the workshops, I saw this, like, super, photorealistic stuff, and gritty characters, and the guys from CD Projekt Red were there developing stuff from The Witcher. And I was like, oh, well, I need to make stuff like this to get a job. Like,
yeah,
obviously, yeah. But then, like, yeah, now, 3-4 years later, on year 5 now, I'm sitting here like, well, why did I want to leave my job? What actually made me excited about doing art, and what is it I want to do? So, yeah, I'm just going back down the route of characters again. I want to do character development. I want to be more stylized. I want to do funkier stuff. And yeah, like, it's weird how sometimes it can take so many years of that soul searching to actually find what you want to do. It's difficult. It really is difficult.
yeah. Well, it's like I feel, I don't know why, but like it's people feel guilty, or they're afraid of the idea that, or they create this idea in their head where if you're doing something that you love, there has to be a huge cost, like a
Yeah,
negative cost. And
yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way. Like, um, for example, this job that I got over at Monami Park,
Hmm.
they reached out to me, and uh, at that time, I wasn't looking for a job. I just
Hmm.
posted my work, and I was doing the things that I enjoyed. And they reached out to me because they liked the stuff that I enjoyed, and it resonated with them too. And
Right.
I think that's the powerful thing, especially with technology right now. It's like you are able to connect with, I mean, everybody essentially that has access to this. And if you create something that you really like and you enjoy, people that also enjoy that content will may somehow find a way to contact you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like I don't know. I really I think that this is a perfect time to really just do what resonates with you, and then you're going to find the opportunity that way, instead of forcing yourself to do something that is marketable and you don't really care for it too much, and you're going to be competing against people that are really passionate about that content. And of course you're going to you're going to have work that are less, comparably to them, because they're excited about that and you're not. You're just doing it to get a job.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. I know what you're saying, and I think it was, even just recently, I had a student talking to me in one of my classes, and he was saying that, I should do this or did that. If I do this kind of art, we'll maybe get into this kind. And I'm like, dude, where do you want to work? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, try and figure that out first, and then maybe if that is like your end goal, if that's where you want to work, if that's your dream, then sure, aim your portfolio towards that style. But then, like, you really should just be making stuff you want to make, like stuff you enjoy making. Because if you get a job doing things you don't like and you have to sit and do that for, I'm saying, 45 hours a week, maybe more, you're going to burn out really quickly. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to be done in the first week. You'll be like, fuck this. And all that work is then out the door because you've left the job a weekend. So, but if you love it, if you really do love it, then sure, if you have to work maybe a wee bit overtime or a wee bit here and there, then yeah, you're not going to mind as much because you enjoy the process. So, you know, that's the idea, right? And it's about loving the process, not the end result. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, like, so art is just pretty much visual language, right? It's a language. It's a way that we communicate. And then just like, my tone of voice, if I'm really bored about talking about something, but this is what's marketable right now, you're going to be able to tell. You know that I'm not excited about it. You know that I'm not being genuine about it. So if you're going to create something that you're not excited about to market yourself to others that know how to really read this language, they're gonna be like, "Oh, dude, you look like you're bored doing this. Like, why are you even trying to apply here?"
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a thing even, with other artists I spoke with where everybody's gone through this whole self-discovery journey. And I think it's because when I first left my job, and you're talking like 2011, the end of 2011, the internet really hadn't exploded. into what it is now. Like ArtStation wasn't even a thing yet, right? So like DeviantArt was the only thing I knew you could post your stuff on. And then concept art, I would say, has only really been a thing properly for maybe 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Because like art books were a thing at one point, and people were like, "Holy shit, you can make art!" Because like I think my first art book was Skyrim or something like that. So yeah, I think even the thing that got me into it was watching like the God of War 3 documentary. So or was it the Halo 3 documentary? Anyway, one of them. But like, yeah, the art side of it, like that side of it, it's almost just arrived,
It's just, yeah,
and
fairly new.
yeah, so we are probably the first generation artists that are then trying to find our way through that landscape because of the whole boom, and then thinking, well, do I need to make stuff like this? Stuff like what makes good concept art? Is this a good concept, or do I need to draw in this style?
And
And
that's an interesting point. I mean, just to kind of give validate to your statement, or to context to your statement,
yeah,
I've worked on a lot of projects that didn't even have concepting as part of their
yeah,
pipeline because they just didn't know. It wasn't standard.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, and that's interesting as well because, like you said, back when even you were working for Riot, that was almost at their infancy because I would only say in the last 5 years they've kind of exploded into the monumental thing it is now. That League is now, but
yeah,
back then it was still very young in the industry. And yeah, concepting as well is again a thing that's just I mean, even back in the day in the 90s when they wanted art to be done for a project, they would literally get the guy in the office who could draw the best, and he would do all the art for the game. So yeah, concepting is a thing where it's only became a job, I think, because they wanted to push the visual language of these projects really far into the next level. And to do that, you have to spend more time iterating on a process. Because 3D can get to a point where, like a box looks like a box, or a door looks like a door. But then with characters and stuff that's more imaginative, creatures or that kind of stuff, you then have to play almost with the pencil, with the pen, or with the Wacom stylus, and develop something that almost hasn't been seen before.
yeah,
A door with crystals around it, or a box that has like moss all over it, or is more aged. So yeah, like that's probably why so many of us are fucking miserable because we're just like the guinea pigs for the industry. I mean, that's going to be right, right?
yeah. I mean, but you know what's crazy though? Like, what's really cool about our profession is that as concept artists, you have to learn about a lot of stuff in order to recreate it. You have
Yeah.
to learn about characters. You have to learn about people. You have to learn about the psychology of people and their emotional things.
Mm.
And I guess like that's why it's like, it can be overwhelming for an artist because there's so
Yeah.
much to learn.
Holy
And
shit, yeah.
because of that, there's so much to learn, you forget to learn about yourself.
Oh,
You put yourself on the backside because you're like, if I don't learn about cars in the next like 5 weeks, I'm not going to get this job over here. And
yeah.
I think, yeah, knowing yourself first and then going out to learn the other subject matter. I think that's
Mm.
what's really important.
Oh, dude, I remember a person I was with uni. I was at uni with him, and he literally saw a job at a games company he wanted to work for, and he was like, "Oh, they're looking for a UI designer. I'll start learning UI." And I was like, "Do you want to do UI?" He's like, "Nah." I'm like, "Well, then I fucking learn it then." Like, there's no point in doing that. But like, yeah, like you almost do these things where you look at job applications and they're like, "Oh, you need to know ZBrush and you need to know that," and you're like, "Oh, fuck, I need to go learn. I don't know what to learn ZBrush, but no, I'm saying I don't. But then people would sometimes be like, "Oh, I have to go learn this software that I didn't really want to learn," and then yeah, then you're left in this whole thing of like you're you're picking up pieces of other parts of the projects because you feel it's going to be like valid for you as a job. But then, like you said, if you get that job and you don't enjoy that process, then you're just going to end up back at square one where you're then like, oh, I need to look for another
Yeah.
job now because I hate this one. So, because Slime Ranchers, um, it's probably a really awesome game, and Monami Park are probably an awesome studio, but you have seen a trend of people moving from these massive big studios like Jamaro and Blizzard, who's now working at I forget the game company he's moved into, but they're working on a project for Marvel, I'm sure it is, or an IP. But you know, like I say, we thought he would be Blizzard forever, but now he's like, well, no, no, I want to do this thing, this new challenge, this thing that excites me more. Because yeah, like I think if MD had talked to you without knowing your history and said, "Oh wow, you left Riot Games," like why would you do that? Like it must have been a really good gig, and what were you crazy? Are you mad? Like, but yeah, it's not. it's not the project or the company, it's the validation you get as an artist. That's what you're searching for, right?
Well, it's maybe not validation of the artist, like because now I don't like that word anymore, validation,
Of
because of
course, yeah,
how.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, I think it's just uh, what really what really fulfills me,
yeah.
and that's what I'm finding. It's not a project.
That was the word. That was the word I was looking for, was
Yeah, for
fulfillment. Yeah,
fulfillment,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And for me, like I guess I can give you a little window to my core values. Like what I want is to live a healthy and fulfilling life, so that I can better myself and hopefully everyone around me. And I want to put myself in an environment that supports that. And the reason why Monomi Park was a very exciting thing for me is because when I was looking at the reviews for Slime Rancher, there were some people that were commenting on like, "Hey, I was really sad and depressed, and then I played this game and it put a smile on my face."
Oh
And
wow.
for me, it was like, "Oh, like this game is not about shooting people. Not that I don't have any problem with shooters, but this game is about just farming slimes and just developing and developing your farm and all that stuff. And it's a really charming and it's fun and people are smiling. And so
Yeah.
for me, like if they were able to kind of create that experience for other people and that's what they want to do, then hell yeah, man, I'm all about it.
Oh
So
yeah, totally. Like the end result for that game isn't like maybe what we say with Anthem and stuff like that. It's no the profit margin. It's no pleasing the shareholders. It's no making all this money. It's about making money, obviously, as a business, but at the same time, it's more about pleasing those fans, building something with love and passion and dedication, and like you're not going to have to sacrifice parts of yourself to then make this a good game. Like people do it because they love it, because it's a hopefully a healthy environment, and I think I agree with that. Like Blizzard would be great to work for maybe one day in the future. But if I could get a gig, doing book covers or doing something that just made me happy and I had enough money to live, then yeah, like I wouldn't need much else. I wouldn't need to work at Blizzard. It's not a thing where like I'd feel sad or unfulfilled if I
yeah.
didn't have that job.
Yeah, well, I hope that there's a wake up call happening in the game industry because we've seen multiple games where extremely high budget, stressful work schedules, and they weren't successful. You know,
Yeah.
maybe they created equal, but ultimately it wasn't a huge success, and a lot of people had something to say negatively about it.
Mm.
So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these smaller companies that are like, hey, we don't have to make crazy huge risks because we're spending a lot of money on marketing and this and that or whatever. We
Mhm.
can just create a experience that we like and then find people that also like that same experience and share
Yeah,
it with them. And
I think it's very on the nose what you're saying. I think it's exactly what, because you look at Destiny and the money and time and resources that went into that, and then the game itself has not done well. There's been a lot of backlash.
yeah,
So yeah,
I mean,
on those
I
weekends.
think there's always going to be AAA games, right? How like there's AAA movies and all that stuff like that. But
Yeah,
I, it's weird. I think we're in this time where there's so much content out there that you can't play it all. So what do you want to do for yourself? You want to find content that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be what everyone's playing. So I think that's why there's game companies that are branching out. That's why there's even movie companies that are making indie films for only specific groups for niche audiences.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's
Even with no, on you go. Sorry.
no.
No, I was just going to say, even with artists, the whole patron thing, like that is a thing now where
Yeah,
you
that's
might only yeah, you might only need like maybe 500 people in the world to like your stuff, and then they could probably sustain you for the
yeah,
rest of your days. I mean, way, 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 way back when I first kind of got into art, like I think Sakime-chan was one of the first people to properly launch her Patreon, and yeah, I think within the first like couple of months, she had something like 25,000 a term, and I was like, holy shit, like
yeah.
that is some serious money. So,
Yeah,
um,
and a lot of people are like, "Oh, Sakimi Chan, she's a sellout," blah blah blah. But ultimately,
uh,
Sakimi Chan has been doing the same thing that she's been doing since the beginning, and now she's finally kind of getting financial success out of it. So, yeah,
yeah.
like we live in an awesome time where if you just do what you want to do,
Mhm.
there might be people that will support you. So,
Yeah, totally. I mean, the thing, like I say, is the thing with Patreon that's been great is that it has made that whole thing of connecting people with their audiences and making sure that if you have a niche or you have a market, then you'll be able to find it. Patreon will be a thing where you can exchange those skills for cash, but no a thing where you're to any deadline, like you're in charge of what goes out and when it goes out.
Yeah.
And that means that you don't have to worry about the next step and getting another job or fulfilling something to get unemployment. I mean, I know, like, speaking to Ahmed when he was talking about launching his Patreon, because he was getting his money for just literally launching his files up onto the internet. He didn't have to stay in LA, so he traveled and he went to Japan and he got to see a bit of the world. And Rich is the same. Rich Carey, he ended up leaving the UK because he was working freelance and went and worked in Japan also. But he's just using his tourist visa, just getting to see the country and also work freelance. So because all he needs now is an iPad Pro and his
Yeah.
pencil, and he's doing work for Epic Games, making skins for Fortnite. So yeah, like there's this new, I think, after the couple of years I've had where it's been kind of sketchy, there's this new revolution, this new freedom that's now coming out where people can, like I said, be more free with their art. I think it probably primarily is catered towards 2D artists, because with 3D, I think there still needs to be an in-house presence with some of the contracts. But yeah, it's getting more and more like now you can just work from your bedroom if you really want to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that's fucking amazing. Well, I just so obviously you're moving across now in the next couple of weeks. You're going to be in this new situation with this new studio and stuff. I take it Monument Park, and you're going to be doing so you're exclusively going to work on this game, Slow Slime Ranchers, but then are you also going to be taking freelance stuff on, or are you just going to be happy working on this one game, or what does the future kind of hold for you now, or what's your immediate kind of vision for where you're going forward?
Well, so working with Monument Park, I'll be working on expansions for Slime Rancher, but I will also be working on a new IP for them. So, and that's something I can't really comment on, obviously.
Mhm.
But I think that there's going to be a lot of fulfillment that I'll get out of work, and what I hope that the free time that I do have, I will have kind of a focus on my input. So a lot of artists, we get in this kind of get this unhealthy pattern of just always getting an output because we want to feel productive.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that while I'm putting a lot of creativity into work, I'm going to try to find creativity outside of my world. So like I will probably travel a lot, or I'll probably go do some different activities. Maybe I'll do hip hop dancing. I did a little bit of that over here in Atlanta, so maybe I'll continue that over in San Francisco. I'll, just like things like that, just doing a lot of different, trying to find new experiences,
Mhm.
and also, trying to create work that is still personal to me. I think that's always been something that's important, and of course, I'll just carry that forward. It's just
Yeah,
making
cool.
something personal, my personal art.
There's so many. I mean, I could list pages and pages of people I've listened to in podcasts, or I've spoke to at conventions, or like developing your own thing is always going to be the most fulfilling thing for you to do. And I
Yeah,
think Ahmed was the same. He was saying that his future goals are basically just going to be he would love to be able just to make something like an IP and then sell it off, and then with the money that's left, use that as time where he can build his next dream project.
yeah,
Because we've all got one like floating about. Like, I mean, we were talking to him the other day, and I think I mentioned at one point, I was like, I'd love to make my own variation of the Zelda franchise, like have a Zelda game that
yeah,
I
that would be
created in Unreal or something.
awesome.
Because we were like, yeah, I mean, like they pretty much nailed the Breath of the Wild, they pretty much nailed the game, but there's still never been a really hugely successful take on Zelda in the West. Maybe something like Witcher, but then that in itself is less the kind of along the lines. It's because it's hyper real, hyper gory. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that one day. So yeah, we've all got those things, or a comic book, or a short film, or an animation. So
Yeah,
um,
I think something that comes to mind is like I would love to work on an anime, even though it's like totally
that's
different from games and stuff like that. I've always loved anime. I've also loved narrative experiences, and I pay a lot of attention to kind of like not just compositions of like screenshots or whatever like that, but just how to tell a compelling story and the I guess the pacing of how you present those information. So Yeah, man, I would love to make an anime. I would love to do something kind of like Miyazaki, but maybe in a
God,
short. So
setting the bar high there.
hey, man, I mean, I would hope that I would hope
Mm.
that to set that bar even higher. Just
Yeah, yeah, man, definitely. I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, why not aim for the stars? Like that's the whole. I'm definitely going to check out the Ghibli Museum when I'm over there, and
yeah, dude,
um,
that'd be awesome.
yeah, I think they're also working on the theme park or something as well. I'm sure that's actually in the works and is almost. I think it's almost built. I think it's only a couple of years away. I know one of the ones I'm looking forward to is the fact that where I'll be in Shibuya, Shinjuku. It's only like half an hour train ride away from Tokyo Disneyland, so I'm like already, wow, that'll be
Have you
good.
ever actually been to Japan? Is this going to be your first time in the country?
Yeah, this will be my first time in Japan.
Ooh,
So,
oh man, I'm so excited for you.
oh,
I always get excited for people that go to another country because it's just like it's a life changing event. You just realize
yeah,
how different the world can be, and it kind of gives you like this idea, like, hey, I can. There's a lot of opportunities. I can
yeah.
do a lot.
Oh man, like it's. I mean, the job I'm going out to isn't art related, but then I'm kind of thankful for that because I think it will just give my brain time to reset. Because
Yeah.
since I graduated last year, I've literally just been in this spiral of I don't have a job yet, I don't have a job yet, I don't have a job yet, I don't have a job yet. So like I just need to chill and focus on what makes me happy
Yeah.
and you take my sketchbook out, and I've got myself an iPad Pro. That was my investment. That's going to go with me,
Oh,
and I've got
dude, that's
Procreate
good.
stuff.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just get back into using a good old pen and pencil and sketchbook and sit and draw things that I love, things that inspire me, and no worry about, is this right for this job? Is this right for this career? I just want to take time just to find myself again. And I think I'll find myself by getting a bit lost in Japan. I think that's the plan.
Dude, that's
Um,
good. I think when you take yourself and uproot yourself from your old patterns and routine, and then you're pretty much starting anew, yeah, you're gonna have that opportunity where you can really know yourself. And just based off of kind of my experience in life, like I moved around. I've moved around a lot, and even in earlier parts of my life, I was moving back and forth from Japan as a
okay.
child,
Mm.
and also, my stepdad, he's Moroccan, and I had to, I was fortunate enough to see what Morocco is like in France and all different parts
Oh
of Europe.
wow,
So
Jesus.
having my environment change a lot allowed me to see what stuck as me as a person, what didn't change. And I'm really excited for you, man. That's going to be a crazy opportunity.
I'm just hoping that it is going to be as good as everyone says it is, because like if I go across and it's shit, I'm going to feel really bad.
Well,
Like
hold on.
no.
Let me lower the expectation. It's going to be horrible, and the food is
Okay.
not going to be great, and the transportation system is bad over there. So
Oh, well, I know that's wrong. So yeah, no, I mean like everybody I know who has went, including the guy who's helped me get this job, has said that they have like found themselves in Tokyo. Like it's been just not just Tokyo, but Japan itself. Like the whole culture of that place is. And I think because in Scotland it's a very inside culture, so because the weather sucks most of the time, you spend a lot of time indoors. There's not a lot to see and do. The country's quite small and kind of cut off from the rest of the country with the UK and England. So people keep telling me that the whole culture shift is because a lot of the places people live are so small. They spend a lot of time outdoors. They go to these really awesome big parks and do their hobbies and play guitar and talk to people and have lunches, or they go away and they sightsee or they see other parts of Japan. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case, and that's going to be something that will inspire me moving
well,
forward.
dude, I hope you do a podcast of your journey, in Japan, because I think that would be awesome for a lot of people to hear.
I mean, this is where I'm in two minds about this, because I just recently said that because this is the reason we're doing so many interviews so close together, is that these were going to come out throughout the year, without me having to prompt them, so they were just going to be set on like YouTube scheduler, and they would just come out, at set times throughout the year, and I wouldn't have to talk to people at certain times and then upload. But that would all be taken care of before I leave the country. So there would be 12 episodes this year. One would come out every month, and then I wouldn't need to worry about it. And then we did think about doing almost like a travel vlog thing, but the two minds I'm in is because one, I'm like, that would be kind of cool, and I know people who are YouTubers in Japan are very minute and it's quite a niche market, so like it wouldn't be oversaturated. I probably would get some views. At the same time, I'm going to be working 40 hours a week, and I'm going to try and be learning some art. So I'm like, I'm not going to take on too much to the point where like I feel like I'm overburdening myself with stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, something though, I guess the value that I feel like you could bring is just you don't have to even do it like throughout the trip, but like, we were talking about like self-discovery and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Just maybe even just presenting you before and after. At a certain point where you definitely have found a good amount of answers for yourself, that where you're considerably different. I think that would be crazy. You don't have to make all these videos in between, but seeing that progression right there, man, I'm kind of envious that you're gonna have this experience for the first time, and I wish I could be there just to see it all. So, yeah, dude,
Yeah.
this is awesome, and I think that for a lot of artists, that what you're doing is a really great example of just kind of getting out of your comfort zone, and this will allow you to really find who you are.
Yeah, man, I think that's definitely going to be the case, and I think that's why I wanted to go dark. So when I came back next year with a kind of breadth of work or experience, then I could just kind of hit people with like the 1-2 punch straight away and be like, "Hey, dudes, Mark Station changed overnight. Here's all my new work," and see how the world then accepts me.
Oh man,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, it'll
And
be
oh, dude,
interesting.
you're gonna have a awesome. You're gonna have so many things to eat too there over there. It's so good.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. It's almost it's difficult as well because I've been vegan for a long time, and I know that it can be difficult over there because like everything has fish in it. So I'm kind of even the broth, like a broth and a lot of stuff is kind of it will have a remnants of fish in it. So it's like I don't know how I'm going to dodge, but I've been told in Tokyo especially there is a lot more new options for vegan people as well to experiment with food and stuff like that. So I'll see how it goes. I mean, I might have to change my diet slightly. I'll see how I end up when I'm over there. But
Yeah,
yeah, like whenever we watch a lot of travel stuff or people we watch who live over there, like the one thing they talk about is food. Like just the abundance of it and how cheap it is, and you can eat, a main course for like 400 yen, which is next to nothing. So
yeah,
yeah, we've already been collecting yen. We've already been packing our bags primarily. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, we'll keep in touch as the year goes on, and I'm sure I'll fill you in on the
yeah,
side that's been going on and things we've been saying. So yeah, definitely, man. Okay. Yeah. Well, all I need to say now is just thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for giving up your time and talking to me about shit. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to speak with you. So
Same right here, man.
thanks, man.
Well, thank you very much.
If you guys are listening, check out Ryoma's work. I'll link it in the links below in the description, and yeah, leave any questions you want from. I'll make sure you find them, and stay tuned. You can check us out. Obviously, we're on different platforms: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes podcast services, SoundCloud, and a lot of other things. Just make sure you keep tuned to us. We'll have more awesome interviews coming up. And yeah, just have to say bye and thanks. Bye, guys.
Peace.